Am I the a-hole for spending money I saved for a trip with my dad when he wanted to include his stepdaughter? Back in February, I, 17 female, asked my dad if we could take a weekend trip for Halloween to this haunted house event the two of us have talked about going to before. He said he wasn't sure he could afford it, but if I saved enough money we could go. He was going to cover some of it too. I actually saved up the money by early September and told him as much. Then he brought up the subject about how cool it would be to include his stepdaughter, 14, and it would be a nice bonding trip for all three of us. He asked me how I felt about that, and I told him I didn't want to include her because I wanted it to be just the two of us. He asked why, and I told him we never do stuff just the two of us anymore. I don't want that time with him. He said he gets plenty of time with his wife, but I said she's not him. That I wanted more time for him and me, not everyone together. Not me and his wife or me and his stepdaughter. He told me okay, it could be just us. Then his wife blabbed because he didn't tell her I had said no. Then his stepdaughter wanted to go, and he told me he couldn't say no to her after that. So I told him to forget it, and bought myself some stuff for the money I had saved. This upset my dad and his wife and his stepdaughter. My dad and his wife told me I responded like a child instead of an almost adult. His stepdaughter said I was so mean. Why would I do that? She was looking forward to spending the weekend with us at the haunted house. I told my dad I saved it for the two of us to go alone, but he has made it clear he doesn't want that time with just me anymore. And since that's how he feels, I am sick and tired of time with his family. That he shouldn't worry because I will be gone soon, and he can spend all the time he wants to with them, and the childish and mean one won't be living here in a few months. He asked why I couldn't just wait and do something else with him. Why spend the money? Why break the plans like that? It's not the first time I have tried to do something with him, and he automatically involved everyone or just his stepdaughter in it. And I even told him I missed hanging out just him and me. It doesn't do anything. I know his wife is upset because her daughter is hurt, because she knows how badly he didn't want her there, and she's also not going now. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You shouldn't be covering any of the cost of this trip at all. And your dad and his wife are being a-holes for downplaying your need for one-on-one time with your father. The money's yours and you're entitled to spend it on what you want. You aren't obligated to participate in a trip with your stepsister, let alone pay for it from your pocket. It's good that you stood your ground and didn't let them guilt trip you or force you. Going to the trip with your 14-year-old can also restrict the scary activities which you'll be able to participate in. You have to take that into account. I'm not quite sure that this place suits a kid, although it depends on her character and endurance. I hope that you're pleased with what you bought. At least it stays. The experience of the haunted house is over. Not a a-hole. Kids in all families are allowed to want one-on-one time with their parents. It is good and healthy and important. And it's even more important in blended families. I'm sorry your dad reacted this way. You were always upfront in your communication. You showed maturity here. Your father is not. I'm sorry your plans were ruined. Yep, Opie communicated clearly and from the start, and even saved up for it. She's not childish for letting herself get run over by her dad and his wife, and drawing a clear boundary and paying for the honor. Now next time she makes plans she's paying for, they'll know she's not bluffing. Doesn't sound like there will be a next time. Opie sounds tired of trying. Tired, heartbroken, rejected, alone. All words I could use to describe how I feel. Also mad. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex and his girlfriend have family time with my son? Every year I take my son to visit his great-grandparents. Usually his dad, / my ex, will be there too during the trip. And they'll spend a lot of alone time together since my ex doesn't see our son as often as I do. The only difference this year is that this time he brought his girlfriend with him. The trip has been a disaster. The first week we were here, my ex wanted to take my son out sailing, and his girlfriend went with them. They came back early and my son was crying so hard he threw up. When I asked my ex what happened, he told me he didn't know and that our son kept asking for me, but he told him they would see me when they got home, and he just started crying and wouldn't stop. Since my son has refused to go out anywhere with his dad unless I go too. He won't even stay in the same room as anyone else unless I'm there. I've tried talking to him, but it hasn't helped me understand his behavior. Yesterday, his girlfriend pulled me aside and told me I needed to give them space to have some family time, and that she really wanted my son to like her because my ex made it clear if he doesn't, their relationship wouldn't last. I told her I wouldn't force my son to go alone with them. She said she understood I was overprotective, but that I needed to let his dad have time with him without me hovering. She kept asking me, and I finally got annoyed and told her to tell my ex to talk to me if he had a problem. She basically told me that he was my ex's son too, and that she knew it must be hard for me to see him move on. Lol, but that I was being selfish and acting jealous. She's been giving me dirty looks ever since. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Something really messed up happened for your son to react the way he did. If I were you, I'd get some counseling for him if he keeps refusing to tell you what happened. As far as the girlfriend is concerned, she needs to shut up and stop forcing your child to like her. That's not how it works, and it's her problem to deal with if your ex breaks up with her. Completely agree. Something happened. My mama gut can feel it through Reddit. I don't even have kids, and I can still tell there's a strong problem with ex's girlfriend, not just a kid being whiny. Either they told him they were going to be a family/girlfriend as his new mom, and the idea of such a big change distressed a poor kid, or he was yelled at or physically punished for something, and probably told not to tell. Nothing happened, he just cried until he puked for no reason. Doesn't make sense. Not today home, but you would be if you don't get to the root of what happened to your son that day. Crying enough to throw up? There was some abuse. Do not rug sweep. Do not talk to the girlfriend. Talk to a lawyer, or at the very least a child psychologist. Something happened. Something bad, and your son either feels responsible for what happened, or is in fear of saying anything because someone threatened either him or you. Your kid gets upset enough to barf. That is kind of a visual that something happened on a sailboat that has him not wanting to be alone with his dad or anyone else. I am thinking that new girlfriend was pushing pretty hard to get the kiddo to like her and become his new mom, and he took that badly. I could be terribly wrong about that, and you will probably never find out exactly what happened. But kid got scared and now has separation anxiety. Girlfriend is only acting in her own self-interest and could care less about your kid, except she has to get the kid to like her or she is out. I don't know what the deal is with the ex. He sounds like he might actually be good for your son, but he is acting all kind of crazy about this. The best thing is to give your son plenty of leeway to understand that nobody's taking him away from you. Nobody's taking your place, and he is in a safe spot when he is around other relatives and friends. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for excluding my nephew from my son's birthday party? My brother, his wife, and 5-year-old son, nephew, been living at my parents' house since 2019 because of financial issues. My nephew is spoiled. He misbehaves and gets away with everything. Throws epic temper tantrums if things don't go his way. I have 8-year-old son, and every year when his birthday party is over and everyone gets ready to go home, my nephew would collect the gifts my son received and throw a tantrum till we'll let him go home with them. My sister-in-law would spend an hour complaining about their financial situation and try to convince me to let my nephew keep all the gifts because he saw them. I tried to hide them in another room, but my nephew got access. I suggested making a list of the toys my son received, so my brother and sister-in-law would buy similar stuff for my nephew, but they'd end up leaving with them. My son would feel devastated and sad afterwards. Not just that, but in a matter of a week would visit my parents' house and see most of the toys destroyed. This year, as my son's 9th birthday rolled around, my husband straightforward said, "Listen, I don't want what happened in the past couple of years to happen again. It's time to put an end to your brother and his wife's enablement. Your nephew shouldn't be invited if you don't want issues at a party. I'm just letting you know that if they bring him anyway, I'm taking the party over to my parents' house 3 hours away." So I called my brother and let him know that he either leaves his son at home and attend my son's birthday with his wife, or not attend if he didn't want to. He hung up, then called again in a few minutes and was livid, asking if I was serious about what I said about excluding his son from his cousin's birthday. And I said a reason for that is because of my nephew's misbehavior. He laughed, saying, "What's misbehavior? He is a kid, for Christ's sake. Go ahead and name one kid who doesn't misbehave." I said that what his son does, which is taking my son's birthday gifts, then crying and yelling his way into leaving with them, was not fair, because those gifts were given to him, and he shouldn't be guilted into giving them away on his birthday. My brother started talking about a struggle to buy his kid new toys, and said him and I should encourage the kids to share. I said no, because everyone deserves to receive gifts, and not be expected to share or give them away. I said he and his wife are welcome to attend, but my nephew isn't. He first begged and promised he won't let his son touch anything, but then got angry and said he was appalled, completely appalled by my coldness and cruelty to exclude my nephew like that. He said his son understands what's going on, And once it tells him his aunt excluded him from his cousin's birthday party, I shouldn't act surprised, because neither he or his son will forget how I treated them. Then hung up. Mom roasted me about my decision, saying I'm causing emotional damage over a few gifts. She and Dad wanted me to apologize and invite my brother's family. I'm sorry. You've allowed them to just take your son's presents in the past? What? How can you let your son down so badly? You should have stopped them, threatened to call the police, and followed through if they still took them. Also, you shouldn't have invited your brother and wife to come without their son. I fully understand not inviting the son, but at that point, you just disinvite them all. Did you really think they were gonna leave their kid with a sitter while going to a kid's party he wasn't invited to? Your brother and his wife suck. I feel deeply sorry for their son because they are doing him a great disservice, and they shouldn't be stealing from you. Your parents suck for enabling their behavior and expecting you to suck it up. You suck because in past years you did just suck it up, and you and your husband allowed your son to suffer. Everyone sucks here. Your son is not a hole, but everyone else is. Everyone sucks here. I can't believe all these adults ever allowed this to happen once, let alone for years. Your poor son. Birthday ruined year after year, and all the adults just let it happen. I can't imagine someone acting entitled to my child's birthday gifts, and me just giving in instead of being a grown-up and saying no. And for this to happen for years before the parents ended it, absolutely everyone sucks here besides the birthday kid. You're the a-hole for ever allowing this to happen to your son on his birthday. Right? Or at least everyone sucks here. I could never imagine allowing someone to take my kid's birthday presents away from them on their birthday just because a 3 or 4-year-old was having a temper tantrum. Kids that age have temper tantrums all the time. They don't know better. The idea that the only two possible options are either the nephew is allowed to take the birthday presents home or the nephew doesn't come to the party at all is so bizarre to me. Last story. Am I the a-hole for fighting my ex and changing our custody agreement? I, 28 male, have been a single dad to 2 kids, 6 male and 4 female, for the last 2 years. My ex-girlfriend, Kate, 27 female, is the mother of my children but has not been present in their lives for the last 2 years. She spent the last 2 years in either jail or rehab due to her addiction, heroin. When Kate and I started dating, I knew she used, but I was young and dumb and in love and didn't use my best judgment. She got pregnant young, and to her credit, she stopped using completely and was a doting, loving mother. After she got pregnant with our second, we got engaged and were planning a wedding for a year after the birth. But after the birth of our daughter, everything changed. For the first 6 months or so, things were good and we were a happy family. But then Kate started going out with old friends, telling me she felt like she was losing who she was and needed to realize that she was also an independent person and not just a mother. I agreed that she needed to socialize and have a life outside of our family, but I was wary about the people she was hanging around with and expressed my concern to her. She assured me that she had put that part of her life behind her and she just wanted to be around friends again. Well, Kate started using again and got herself put in jail. She got out and went to rehab, but relapsed shortly after and went to jail again, this time for 12 months. During that time, I broke off our engagement and petitioned the court for full custody of our kids, and it was granted. We moved a couple towns away to get a fresh start, and my kids are now thriving in their new schools, and I have a better paying job. Now, Kate is out of jail and is living in a halfway house. She's working and getting an apartment, and has told me she wants to be part of her kids' lives again, and mentioned she wants partial custody. She said she was hoping to avoid too much drama in the courts and asked for my support on it. I told her I would fight her tooth and nail to keep full custody, until she can prove to me that she isn't going to mess up again. I told her I will allow her to see her kids under my supervision and on my terms until the court tells me otherwise. She gave me a sob story about how much she's changed, and that she would never jeopardize her relationship with her kids again. But I told her all that talk doesn't mean a thing to me, because I have zero trust in her. She called me an a-hole for depriving her of a relationship with her kids, and I told her she did that to herself. She said I can't permanently blame her for the mistakes she's made in the past, and I told her that she has a long road to gain back enough of my trust for me to even consider supporting partial custody, and that until the court tells me otherwise, I'm fighting for full custody. I'm getting a lot of grief from her family and even my family about it. They all think I should give her a chance, since she's their mother, as if that somehow erases the fact that she's been gone for 2 years. You need a lawyer, not Reddit. I have one, and have been working with them to be as prepared as I can be. I just keep hearing so many versions of, but she's their mother from both her family and even mine. Her family I can kind of understand, but hearing it from a mom and aunts is what is making me question myself. Like, to them it's so easy to overlook all the BS just because she gave birth to the kids. She may be their mother, but relapsing twice clearly shows that she loves drugs more. If she wants partial custody, then she can and should prove it. Because as their father, I'm not putting the children at risk over a third relapse. Absolutely do not relent. She's an addict, and I would need to see years of being clean before I'd ever consider partial custody. She even recognized that this isn't about her, it's about the well-being of the kids. Maybe that will finally motivate her to get clean. I'm getting a lot of grief from her family and even my family about it. They all think I should give her a chance since she's their mother. And I am their father, the one who has been there every day of their lives. This decision is in the best interest of my children. Not the a-hole. Addicts are masters of manipulation, and there's no way to know if she's truly doing better without the intervention of the court.
Am I the a-hole? I refuse to let my colleague take credit for my idea in a meeting. So last week in a team meeting, one of my colleagues, Melissa, tried to present an idea that I had shared with her privately the day before. For context, our manager had asked everyone to brainstorm solutions to a recurring issue we've been facing with client communication. It's been a problem for months, emails going unanswered, misaligned expectations, and general frustration on both sides. So I'd been thinking about it a lot. Over a few evenings, I put together a simple but practical framework to help organize our client touchpoints, track responses, and make sure no one was falling through the cracks. I was actually pretty excited about it because I felt like it could genuinely improve how we work. The next morning, Melissa and I had coffee together. We often bounce ideas off each other casually, so I mentioned my framework to her and explained how I thought it could help. She seemed supportive and even added a couple of small suggestions. I honestly thought she was just being a good teammate. Fast forward to the meeting. The manager asks for ideas, and before I can even open my mouth, Melissa starts outlining my exact framework, almost word for word. I was stunned. For a second, I sat there wondering if I had misheard, but nope. It was definitely my idea, down to the specific examples I had given her. I could feel my face getting hot, but I spoke up and said something like, "Actually, that's something I've been working on recently. I'd be happy to share the details." The room got quiet for a moment, and it felt awkward. Melissa gave me this sharp look but stopped talking, and my manager encouraged me to go ahead and present what I had. I walked everyone through the framework, and they seemed to like it. After the meeting, Melissa pulled me aside and told me I embarrassed her and made her look bad in front of the team. She said I should have just let her finish and that it wasn't a big deal because we're all on the same side and credit doesn't really matter as long as the team succeeds. But the thing is, it does matter, especially because this isn't the first time I've seen her present other people's ideas as her own. It was just the first time she did it to me directly. Now I'm stuck wondering if I came across as petty or confrontational for speaking up in the moment. Am I the a-hole for not letting my colleague take credit for my idea? Now for the top comments. Credit does matter. End of story. Bet she won't do that with you anymore. When you have a voice and are willing to deliver a slap of embarrassment publicly, this sort of BS quickly stops, and then others start to clue in. Afterward, Melissa told me I embarrassed her and made her look bad in front of the team. Yes, that is because she doesn't know how to work in a team. She did it to herself, not the a-hole. That's how I feel too. I didn't want to embarrass her, but she really put herself in that position by trying to take credit in the first place. I'd rather deal with a little awkwardness than let people think my work belongs to someone else. Hopefully this sets a boundary going forward. Not the a-hole. She was embarrassed because you called her out for stealing. If credit didn't matter, it wouldn't have mattered that you explained it or that they found out she wasn't the one who had the idea. Time to stop sharing your ideas with her. What a trifling witch. Thanks. If credit truly didn't matter, then she wouldn't have cared who presented it. The fact that she got upset afterward really showed me she knew what she was doing. I definitely won't be sharing my ideas with her anymore. It's weird as heck she even tried to pass it off like it was hers. You were right there. I would honestly assume she's done this before, both behind people's backs and right in front of them, and counted on people being too polite to call out her BS. Nobody starts out stealing people's ideas for the very first time, right in front of their own damn face in a meeting. Nah, not the a-hole man. You gotta stand up for yourself, especially in the workplace. Everybody's hustling to get ahead, you know? If your work's being used, you deserve the credit. Simple as that. Suck it up, Melissa. And hey, can't help but think, maybe Mel felt threatened by your big brain moves. Keep doing you, bud. Haha, thanks. I appreciate that. I don't usually like confrontation, but I felt like if I stayed quiet this time, it'd just keep happening. Maybe you're right and she felt threatened, but honestly, I'd rather just be recognized for my own work than get caught up in that kind of office politics. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting a teacher who gave my son detention for checking his glucose monitor during a test? So I have a son who is 13 male and has type 1 diabetes. He has a 504 plan on file with a school that explicitly allows him to check his CGM, continuous glucose monitor, and treat lows or highs during instruction, quizzes, and tests. It also allows him to carry fast-acting carbs like glucose tabs or juice boxes with him at all times. This plan isn't just a suggestion, it's a legally binding accommodation to make sure he can safely participate in school. During a math exam last week, his sensor buzzed. He raised his hand and told his teacher, 40s male, that he needed to check his blood sugar. Instead of letting him do so, the teacher told him, "No electronics, period," and instructed him to wait until the end of the test. My son told me he started to feel shaky, and because he knows how quickly things can get dangerous, he quickly glanced at his CGM screen to see his number. At that point, the teacher confiscated the receiver and assigned him detention for using a device during a test. By the time my son got to the nurse, she confirmed he was dropping fast and immediately gave him juice. She also documented the incident and reminded my son that he was absolutely allowed to check his CGM anytime. When I heard about this, I emailed the teacher with a copy of the 504 plan attached, politely reminding him of my son's rights. His response was basically, "Rules have to be consistent, and allowing devices during tests creates the appearance of cheating." That was when I escalated. I asked the assistant principal to remove the detention and retrain staff on medical accommodations. Thankfully, the assistant principal reversed the detention quickly, but the teacher didn't let it go. In the next class, in front of everyone, he doubled down and said that testing integrity comes first and that rules are rules. My son came home embarrassed and humiliated, worried that his classmates now see him as someone who cheated during a test. At that point, I filed a formal incident report with the principal and district compliance office. I'm not going to sit around and wait for the next low blood sugar episode to turn into an ambulance ride, just so a teacher feels like the rules are being enforced. A 2-second glance at a CGM does not hand out test answers, but refusing to allow it can absolutely create a medical emergency. I followed every step of the plan, provided documentation, and only escalated when my son was punished for managing a condition the school already agreed to support. Protecting my kid's health will always come before protecting a blanket rule. Am I the a-hole for pushing back this hard? Hire an attorney to handle that school. Thank you. I'm calling an attorney Monday, CCing the District 504 coordinator, and filing with OCR. Detention wiped, written apology, staff-wide ADA training, and he's off proctoring until he can read a damn 504. My kid's blood sugar isn't extra credit. If the school drags its feet, they can explain it to my lawyer at a board meeting. That teacher may not be so lucky next time and cause a hospitalization or death. He needs serious retraining or dismissal. Yep, preach. A 2-second glance to not faceplant isn't killing test integrity. What wrecks it is a grown man ignoring a written plan because his ego needs a win. We've got a new proctor, juice on the desk, and my kid isn't asking permission to stay conscious ever again. Don't forget to include public apology from teacher in front of the entire student body in your list of demands. He endangered your son and publicly shamed him in front of his peers for a medical necessity. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. And that teacher is a walking liability who cares more about his power trip than your kid not going into a diabetic coma. Yeah, exactly. Dude's flexing over a beeping medical alert like it's contraband, while my kid is shaking. He humiliated my kid in front of the class and acted proud of it. If he needs a power trip so bad, he can go bully a stapler. New proctor, juice on the desk, instructions in giant letters. I'm done babysitting a grown man's feelings while my kid fights his own body. Him confiscating the medical device is a huge issue. Him ignoring your son's medical emergency is also a huge issue. These two facts of the situation warrant an immediate response for your son's safety. As soon as possible, you and your lawyer go to the school to demand action. Son gets moved to a new class if possible. Teacher immediately suspended for endangerment of a minor's life. Bring a doctor's letter explaining the seriousness of the situation. Next story. Told a colleague I would never want her as a mother-in-law. I, 30 female, work with Anna, 57 female. Anna is a proud mom. She constantly talks about her son, who's a doctor. Honestly, I don't mind listening. I'm genuinely happy for her and think it's sweet that she's proud of his accomplishments. But over the past few months, she has started trying to get me to go on a date with him. At first, I laughed it off politely and told her I wasn't interested, but she kept bringing it up. She would make little comments like, "You and my son would make such a cute couple," or "You're exactly the kind of girl my son should settle down with." I've tried to be gracious about it, but I've been very clear that I am not interested in being set up with anyone. The last straw for me was when she actually gave my phone number to her son without asking me. I found out when he texted me out of the blue, introducing himself. He wasn't pushy. In fact, he was polite. But I never replied because I felt uncomfortable. I had never given Anna permission to share my number, and it felt like a real overstep. Fast forward to last Friday. We were having lunch with the team, just a casual get-together. The topic of marriage and kids came up, which in my culture is a common but frankly very nosy topic. One of my other colleagues asked me what my plans were. Was I dating anyone? Did I want to get married? Did I want children? I told them honestly that I do hope to find a lifetime partner one day, but I don't see myself becoming a mother. That's a personal decision I've thought about a lot, and I'm at peace with it. Anna immediately gasped dramatically and said, "Oh, I would never want you to be my daughter-in-law. No mother would want to see her son marry a girl who hates kids." The comment stung, not because I want to be her daughter-in-law, I don't, but because it felt judgmental and dismissive of my personal choice. So I smiled and said, "Well, I would also never want you as my mother-in-law. Isn't it amazing how our dreams align?" Some of my colleagues, especially those closer to my age, laughed at the comment. It lightened the mood for me, but apparently not for everyone. Anna looked shocked, and later that day, one of her close friends at work told me that I was rude and should have just let Anna's comment slide. Now I'm wondering if I went too far. I know my response was a little sharp, but I also feel like Anna has been crossing boundaries for a while. I was polite at first, but she ignored my no. So, am I the a-hole for saying what I said? She was rude and shouldn't have made the comment. You matched her energy, as they say. In our culture, it's incredibly rude to talk back to an elderly. Hence, I posted. But yeah, not even my mom cares about me not wanting kids. She'd be happy with grandcats. She's not related to you and your work colleagues, so the whole Asian call everyone aunt or uncle, be polite, etc. needs to be adjusted to workplace norms. And 57 is not elderly. This is the bit I find rude, lol. Since when did "I don't want to be a mother" mean you hate kids? I know, I do love kids, but I want a child-free home. Guess it was a different time for them. Being old doesn't mean you can say what you want. Not the a-hole. Well, she can say what she wants, but not entitled to get it. Initially, she wanted OP as a potential daughter-in-law, so she can say that. Things changed when OP replied as she did. and was equally entitled to say what she does and doesn't want. The colleague sounds like a real Karen. Last story. Am I the a-hole for getting upset that my boyfriend prioritized corporate gossip over me? I, 21 female, pregnant, and my boyfriend, 24 male, were visiting his parents in another city. Yesterday, he suddenly decided we had to drive back home a day earlier because he needed to drop off a paper at his office. I didn't really have a choice. He just said, "We're leaving," and I went along. It was a long drive, and by the time we got back, I was exhausted and had a headache. When we reached his office, he told me to wait in the car because he just had to hand over the paper. I thought it would take 2 minutes. Instead, he left, and then I saw him sitting outside with his co-workers smoking and laughing. He waved at me to come over. I was annoyed because I had told him I wanted to go home and rest, but I had to take our cat, Eloise, out of the car because it was too hot. The first thing everyone did when they saw me was look at my pregnant belly. I told him again, I want to go home. He said, "Wait a bit, I have something to tell them. Let's go upstairs for coffee." I said, "No, I'll go home alone." He laughed and said, "Well, I have the car keys." His coworkers also laughed. Then he said, "She's just acting like this because she's tired." I felt humiliated in front of strangers. He dragged me upstairs with him into the kitchen area with his colleagues. I thought maybe he had something work-related to discuss, but nope. It was just gossip about a fight between two co-workers who had screamed at each other and gotten fired. They were reenacting it word for word, and my boyfriend was asking a million questions like, "What did the team lead say?" and "What did you write in the group chat after?" At that point, I was literally praying the team lead would show up and tell him to go home, because clearly I couldn't convince him. Meanwhile, I was sitting there like an accessory. And the worst part, he was passing my cat Eloise around to whoever wanted to hold her, without even asking me. A girl said, "Can I pet her?" and he literally just handed her over. The irony, he was there to submit a sick leave form. Officially, he was sick. But instead of being home resting, he was sitting at the office gossiping and showing off his pregnant girlfriend and cat. I felt like I, and Eloise, were treated like objects he couldn't leave behind, not like actual people with needs. I told him many times I don't want to go upstairs with him anymore, that I'm not his assistant, but he keeps saying, "You don't need to feel uncomfortable." So, am I the a-hole for being upset? That was stupid on his part. He's supposed to be going on sick leave, but he's seen hanging around work, joking with his co-workers. His request for leave could have been denied. He certainly showed no consideration for your feelings. I hope you had a serious discussion about how this made you feel. He owes you an apology. I hope this is just a one-off and not a pattern of his thoughtlessness. Congrats on your upcoming bundle of joy. Depends on what he is on sick leave for. You would be correct if he had the flu. If it was for breaking a leg, you couldn't necessarily do your job but wouldn't stop you from hanging out with your co-workers gossiping. It depends. There could be liability issues. Must be more serious than the flu. Wouldn't need formal sick leave for that. Perhaps an operation? Would be helpful to know. OP, what is the nature of his sick leave request? And for how long? His sick leave was from Monday to Friday. Today, his dad is a doctor and signed it. I don't know what he wrote though. I think flu. No, not the a-hole. These are very controlling behaviors. By controlling, I mean he refused to give you the car keys, forced you to socialize with his co-workers, and humiliated you in front of his co-workers. He prioritized his own desire to spend time with his co-workers over your discomfort. These are the behaviors of someone who doesn't care about you, and while he might not be abusive now, these behaviors often escalate when you become more locked into a relationship, usually after marriage or having a baby. If you stay with him, take a set of house keys with you at all times while you are with him so you are not trapped. Keep money on you in case you need to get a ride somewhere. If you have a ride-share app like Uber, keep it connected to your account only so he can't disable it. Keep a bank account in your name only. As an aside, he also sounds like an idiot, coming in with a sick note and hanging out to gossip with his co-workers. I'd also recommend reading Why Does He Do That? And see if it resonates with you.